Okay, ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3.
We both moved at the same time, mate.
What are you doing?
This is not a Ouija board. I have to say the targets are not arbitrarily set and they're not set out of greed.
I have respect for micromanagement, and that's a weird statement to say.
Yeah. Another day in the life of a sales manager. Do you want the yellow one or the red one? Morning, Hibbo. On time. Good. Wait a minute, what are those shorts? I could absolutely do Hibbo's job. Shorts on me? What in the Freaky Friday is this? Meeting declined? Not for me. Wait a minute. No. No. Not the watch. You're on, mate. So if you don't mind me asking, mate, is this a business or a hobby? You there, mate? Maybe not.
G'day guys, welcome to another episode of Steel Pushers. Now you might be wondering, Jacob, why are you suited up today? No, I'm not buying machines for you, and I don't have a court appearance this afternoon that I'm aware of. But what we've done today is we've got the lovely Michael Brown, our sales manager, in here, and James, the smartest man alive, Hibbert.
Oh, God.
What's up, everybody? What have you two done to my show?
Well, there's a couple of things. This is what happens when you give us creative freedom, I guess.
Yeah.
But what we put together today, mate, if you can have a look on the table here, we have a great debate. What we thought we'd do today is get the two of you in here, a little bit raw, with a couple of statements that I'm going to put forward to the both of you, that I want your honest answers onto the table. We'll see where that lies, and we'll have a bit of a discussion behind it. Now, James, you came up with a couple of these statements here, and what are you thinking? Are we throwing him under the bus a bit, or?
I think it has to happen. I think it needs to be addressed because the divide is real. You've got somebody that delegates, and you've got somebody that works hard. So
I feel like I'm on the other side of all of the performance reviews I've ever done. And now it's time to actually give back to the sales manager. This is very much a sales manager versus salesman.
But look, I think we just jump straight in. First point.
Okay.
Do you believe you could do my job?
Now, I've interpreted that as, do I think I can do Hibbo's job? And I strongly disagree, because I don't.
And James, yourself, you are saying that you could not be our sales manager right now.
Okay.
Now, Mick, I'd like to know why you've gone strongly disagree.
Oh, you want to go me first?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Probably a few reasons. I really admire in a salesman the necessary, I suppose, tenacity of the whole gig. I think at this point in my career, I don't know if I could have the consistency and the tenacity and the ability to take a knock, get right back into it and take a knock. And I think that actually makes me a better, more efficient salesman when I have to do it, because whenever I'm up against a prospect, I'm like, I'm not calling another one. Like, I'm getting these guys. It's going to be a long gap between the next one.
Yeah.
But I think that's why, because I'm like, I don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
So when I watch you call after call, prospect after prospect, and you've got a great product and you've got a great attitude and you strongly believe that you can do it, I don't know if I've got it in me to go that way. The other reason, I'll tell you one more reason. I feel that there are two types of people, and this is probably a bit controversial and I don't want to offend anybody, but I think there are managers and I think there are workers or salespeople. And I think rarely have I ever seen where somebody's just such a gun career salesperson that they can come into the people management side, because it's not what you think it is. It's none of this stuff. It's all about the people. And coming back the other way, I think that's probably another reason why I strongly disagree that I could do Hibbo's job.
And I think the biggest thing to take away from that also is why I believe you're a great sales manager.
Right.
For those exact reasons. Because you can analyse that and you can truthfully say it, and you're smart enough and onto it enough to see that and then let someone like Hibbo do what he does. That might just sound like a full kiss of the booty, but
it is. That's...
This is an honest space.
This is an honest space.
And I'm suited up.
Coming back to the attitude thing, you can, and we'll talk about micromanagement later, I'm sure, because it's the hot keyword for manager salesman relationship. But giving the salesman the space as a sales manager can only be done when you know that the right attitude is there. But with somebody like yourself and probably the entire team I have here now at Machines4U, it's like, you get the space because you earned it, because your attitude is so on point.
And now we've got a disagree, not strongly,
but
you don't believe you could do the sales manager role right now, and I'd like a little explanation as to why.
And I think a keyword for me would be definitely right now. I don't feel comfortable jumping the gun to that degree, so that's why I've gone disagree. My reasoning as to why is I feel like one of the best things about sales and the way that I keep motivated no matter what happens and the way that I keep pushing forward is because you can simplify the hell out of it. So you can look at it as numbers, you can look at it as one at a time. As soon as you start involving other people, as soon as you start involving different areas like marketing, which Mick also manages, that more or less distracts you from what you're there for. And I think that's a very, very hard thing in management, is keeping your own goals is one thing, but trying to have goals for yourself and then 10 other people and different departments, that is what will distract my focus from being good at this one thing and being very good at that one thing. So that's why I would say disagree, but not strong.
I think what's really surprising about both of those answers is they kind of align as well. From our darker times in cold calling, we've seen some crazy salesmen come through the ranks, And when you watch that happen, you believe natural progression would be a sales manager role or, you know, management to some tier, but it doesn't translate. And I think the attributes to being a good salesman are backwards to the attributes of being a good sales manager.
Yeah.
So if, you know, if you go into that sales manager role, being a cowboy who's really good at selling, you have to be selfish to do that well. So then when you get there and you're like, I don't care what these 10 are doing, like we've seen it happen before where the sales manager, instead of getting the 10 people to do well, they'll just go, look, I'll make the sales for us.
And that's because they're so good at being a salesperson.
Exactly.
They're just so naturally, well, why am I delegating? I'm a doer, I can do it.
Yeah, I'll just do it.
And the other reason that I think that they're not two skill sets is because your way does not mean my way.
Yeah.
So my sales style is not your sales style. So I'm very conscious of that when I'm training and coaching. What I've said to you guys when you come in, it's like, no, I hired you for that.
Yeah.
You came with
You gotta have that.
This isn't sales school.
No, exactly.
This is, you've come here to sell. We're going on to point two.
Point two.
Okay.
All right.
Now, are you ready?
Hey. Good stuff.
Can I please get the cups back into the middle?
Cups in the middle.
Thank you. Do targets need to increase once they have been hit?
All right, at the same time then. Count us in, Jacob.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3.
We're both moving at the same time, mate.
What are you doing?
This is not a Ouija board.
I'm neutral.
We never said that was an area to be.
I'm neutral.
And what are you doing? You're staying neutral as well.
But I'm going to go to agree. I'll tell you why.
Well, yes, we'll kick off with you because I don't know what he's up to right now.
Are you even playing the game?
I will explain.
Yeah, cool. All right.
So, I should be on the line too, and it's funny because you and I must be on the same wavelength. Targets are not arbitrarily set. I have to say that targets are not arbitrarily set, and they're not set out of greed.
Yeah.
They are set around market conditions. They're set around the necessary expenses or net profit ratio that needs to be had. Thirdly, they are to grow the company to where the company needs to be able to do the things that the company wants to do.
Yeah.
Very rarely is it an entrepreneur who runs the company who just comes in and is just like, just got to grow. There are financial investors who will buy a company or come into a company and want to just take the profits out of it. They will want to see a steady 10% increase in the net profit of a business. Financial investor will consider a steady growth, but it's never the staggering growth that you think is going to come from greed. Maybe people out there, tell us in the comments if it doesn't come from greed. Therefore, when the sales targets do filter down to the boots on the ground sales guys like yourselves, they have gone through filter after filter after filter, did business decision after business decision after business decision, countless meetings with the accountants, all of the history of the company, all distilled into, here you go, dude. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, and I think your context is, if I hit my target, does the sales manager go, oh, well, he's capable of that. Now let's go higher to keep the carrot at the end of the stick for the donkey.
Exactly.
It never happens.
Yeah.
However, if you take it as the final point that I didn't say earlier, there's another reason why sales targets increase. And it is due to the potential of the team, the business, and the goals of the company.
Yeah.
Meaning, if your sales targets now are 2 for the month, they might be 2 now.
Yeah.
But I know that your actual potential when we get humming is 4 or 8.
Yeah.
So we're going to take you on a journey to get to 4 and to 8.
Yeah.
So what you might see without the communication is my sales targets are 2. You don't know that 2 months down the track they're going to 4. And then 3 months down the track after that they're going to 8.
Yeah.
Because the things that we're doing in sales management are to get you up to where the full potential of you and the whole company can get to.
Yeah.
That's where they come from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to answer your question in that way, I do agree that when you hit the KPI, that does signal okay, we might be
Time
ready
for progression.
to get closer to our full potential.
Yeah.
What that question was to dictate is where you're at with setting those KPIs.
Yeah.
So at least from our side, we can understand that there's a lot more that goes into it than Mick just looking at it and going, okay, well, if we've done that, well, then next month we've got to do this.
If you're a salesperson out there and you're watching this, never think the sales manager sets the KPIs.
No, there's higher.
That's interesting.
His manager
There's higher.
Yeah.
and the directors and stakeholders of the company set the KPIs. He just has to execute them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where there is a conversation that goes back is that the sales manager has the opportunity to push back and say, we're not ready for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's where that can sort of be, the balloon can be pulled back down.
Yeah.
But it's never dictated by the sales manager. We don't have that much
Interesting.
power.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
You would think, and this is, I think, a stereotype that we're touching on. What we don't want is people to think that it's always just, and this is what salespeople get in their heads sometimes. It's just always more,
Right.
more.
Right.
And that's definitely a cliche that I think we've addressed, but a lot of other companies haven't. And that's just from my own experience, what I've seen. That perception is real.
Yeah.
They just want more. Am I able to explain myself?
I'd
here?
love you to,
Okay.
because that is the classic
That's-
on the fence.
Yeah.
That's
And
Yeah.
on the fence.
it's very intriguing.
Now, the reason I've done this is because the question was, do sales targets need to be raised once they're hit? Now, I totally agree with what you said, it's about development. So if you set a KPI when you first hire somebody, it would be silly to not raise that KPI a year later on what they should have grown to.
Yeah.
That's 100%.
Yes, 100%.
Now, the reason I haven't swayed one way or the other is because when I first thought about this question, I thought about running a marathon. So let's say that you trained for a whole year to run 42Ks. You've got a trainer, Mick being my trainer, because he's run a lot of marathons in his life.
Mhm.
Have you?
No, never.
Okay,
Hey.
all right, hypothetical.
Yeah.
Let's say that I trained for the whole year. I run that marathon on the day. A year later, I get my 42Ks and Mick's at the end going, we're going to do another 10Ks. You're doing 52.
Got it.
That is
within the month what you're talking.
Yes.
So his is
Right.
yours is natural progression. His is more final destination.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
So obviously, logistically, you can take this statement multiple different ways.
Exactly.
From what you're saying is, we don't want someone who sits there, watches you make 8 sales when you're only meant to make 5.
Exactly.
But there's a week left in the month, and now it's, hey, how
That's
do we
it.
get to 12?
So as an example, if my target's set at 5
Yep.
and I hit 8 for a month, do I think it's wrong to then change it to 8 every month? Yes.
Yes.
However,
Yeah.
In 3 months' time.
where I disagree with the statement of once they are hit, they should be raised, is when it's premature and when it's based purely on greed of the company as opposed to where that person's at.
Yeah.
I
So
think
that's why I'm on the fence.
I think we're talking about 2 different things too.
Yeah.
So how I answered my question was, you get to the end of the month and it's all said and done, and maybe we're 5 days into the next month and we're talking about it. Okay, what are we going to do for the next 3 months?
Different story.
But there's another one where you're talking about what if my target was 100 grand for the month, and we get there with 5 days to spare, and now as a sales manager, I get excited by breaking records and getting all-time highs.
Yeah.
So if I'm 5 days up my sleeve and I've already got to 100 grand and I've got a team of say 2 to 5 people doing it,
Yeah.
then I come in that morning and go, that is awesome, guys, but I believe that you've actually got another 15 grand in you and we can actually get to greatness, and nobody's ever done that before.
Yeah.
I'm moving my cup for that,
Yeah.
because I
Absolutely.
did that last
And
month.
I would be there as
Is
well.
that where that question come from? Because I did that with the account management team last month.
Yeah.
We got to a threshold where we hit it with a week to go. Then I started to see, okay, we're past that horizon point. Now I'm like, hang on, we haven't got to another, I think it was 115. We haven't done 115 in 2 years.
Yeah.
And
now
that's
we can
where
get to
the
115.
KPI all of a sudden doesn't matter, because it's an arbitrary
Right.
number. We're going off motivation, we're going off where the team's at, and we're going off, let's do this together, instead of the donkey and the carrot. Completely different. I couldn't.
Because it's always moving, got
Yeah. That's
Okay.
why I couldn't be one or the other, but very open question. I
Yeah,
like
and that is different completely.
Completely.
So there's the logistics,
Yeah.
obviously, of my statements, which there's a little bit of wiggle room in there.
No, but what a great conversation we just had.
Final question to kick us off for this first part is going to be micromanaging.
Oh, okay.
That's it. Micromanaging.
So that's the statement.
That's the
Yeah.
statement.
You got to put it into a question for me.
Are we micromanaging or are we not micromanaging? Do
Is
you
it
want to? Should we? Shouldn't we?
Oh, okay.
Should
Gotcha.
we micromanage?
All right.
Shouldn't we micromanage?
Okay. Okay.
Ready?
Yep. This we're too similar.
I know.
All right.
Well, we don't know yet.
Oh, we don't.
Okay.
I have an idea. Close your eyes.
Close eyes.
Yep.
Oh, I like
And
this.
count it in.
Ready?
Okay.
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Ready? Open.
Wow.
Ah!
Wow.
Oh,
You didn't see that coming, did you?
I didn't see that one
Oh,
coming.
he thought he was there. He thought he had
He
you.
thought he had me.
And, no, Mick,
I
just to mix
almost-
this up.
yeah, Hibbo,
just
go
to mix
mix
this
it
up.
up.
Okay.
I want you to explain why you've shocked Michael Brown.
I have respect for micromanagement, and that's a weird statement to say.
Yeah.
I never
And the
thought-
reason it's weird is because I came into sales with no experience.
Right.
Nothing. I had no idea. I had a marketing degree that did not aid me in selling people.
Okay.
And that open head where I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah.
That needs to be molded. The only way that I got quite successful in a very short period of time was because I had crazy people around me that wouldn't give me an inch. And I saw that wean out people, but I also saw it mold very, very good salespeople.
Right.
My counter argument on that one, it depends on the person micromanaging. I'm a qualified chef and I've been micromanaged cooking and it did the complete opposite. Where's the justification behind you thinking you have to stand next to me and watch every one of my moves there?
So yeah, your kitchen one. I think it's horses for courses when it comes to micromanagement, because when you're working in a profession where there's for 70-80% of the role, you got to do it the same way. Like engineering or programming. Let's just do programming for Chevette. Really, there's one way to do it, and you can add a little bit of flair and a little bit of changes and your style and that sort of stuff. And you can be more efficient or less efficient, but really, at the end of the day, the guy next to you is doing the same thing over and over again. I'd imagine that for most of the stuff in the kitchen, it would be fairly similar. I strongly disagree.
Strongly.
That's
Because-
a flat out.
That's a no.
I tell you, because of the statement that you made, or was it Jacob, talking about this isn't sales school. So depending on the business where you work, if you have made a business decision to hire a junior or an inexperienced, then you have to do that micromanagement just to do the training. There's micromanagement in training.
Absolutely.
I've changed my whole philosophy on hiring, is what I said before.
Yeah.
I'm not hiring to micromanage you and your skill. You already got it. So then why would I not give you the space to actually do your thing? There's two ways to manage, all right? Number one, let's say I asked you and Jacob to drive to Sydney, all right? You got 3 days to get to Sydney,
3
okay?
days.
And you leave from our Broadbeach office and you got to get to Sydney Harbour by a certain time. There's two ways to get you both there. Number one, I can say to you, okay, Hibbo, here's your itinerary. This is where you have to stop. This is how long you have to drive. This is where I need you to be at a certain point. And the whole 3 days, every few hours, I'm going to call you and check that you're there. Or, Jacob, dude, by Tuesday 3 p.m, get to Sydney Harbour. See ya.
Nice.
That is the difference between micromanaging and not micromanaging.
Yeah.
When you don't have a bond and a bit of a precedence with your sales team, and you're coming through a bit of a foundation rebuild, it's so hard as a leader, and then your managers above you are sort of going, you got to get there. It's like, pay the bills, you've got to get there. For a sales manager to go do it the way that I said for Jacob, how much risk is there?
Yeah.
Is Jacob going to get there? Well,
What's he up to on the 3 days?
I don't know if he's gone to Sydney before. What's he going to be doing? Is he going to get there ahead of time or early?
Yeah.
How do I, and when your job is to just manage, my job is to just make sure Jacob gets to Sydney. What else have I got to do to just check in? And then I start to feel, well, maybe I'm being too standoffish and I'm not there for my team by not checking in.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of conflicts there.
Yeah.
So what a lot of people will do is they'll fall into the way that I said with you. Yeah, let's map it out because lots of people like structure. Let's map it out. I don't hire for that anymore.
No.
I hire, and I've got a hiring process now, and you know it's stringent.
Yeah.
That I know that I don't need to micromanage. Then the other thing that I do is I build up rapport, team building. You know, we do the basketball because I trust you, Ben.
Yeah.
I trust that if I just give you that target for the end of the month, you'll get there, and the only checking in I do is how can I support you in what you're doing. Because I don't really want to be making sure that you got to the hotel by 5 p.m. that night.
Yeah.
So I strongly disagree with that.
Yeah, and I think that's why we have the dynamic that we do. But I think I wouldn't say that your thoughts on that are blasé, but there are people in your position elsewhere who would say that, but when it comes time to do it, get stuck in the micromanagement trap. And if anything, that's the worst.
Yeah.
See, it's one of those things where if you're upfront about it and you tell me this is the process, this is the structure, this is what's going to happen, you're not blindsided by it. But for you to say, Jacob, get to Sydney in 3 days, that's all you say, and then you treat me like you would if you were to give Hibbo that micromanagement process, and I get caught off guard, I might nearly not go to Sydney on purpose.
Absolutely.
I've got a question though.
Yes.
Do you think I'd do it?
Micromanaging?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, look,
is that honest?
Honest.
That was honest.
Yeah, good.
And really, guys, that's all we've got for the statements. We kind of, as I said, want to wind it down a little bit though, back into the normal format of just talking without you two playing with these cards.
Confiscated.
But touching on what I said there, guys, obviously we come in here, we have a lot of fun. But again, we do that because we do quite well out there too. And that really comes down to touching on everything that we just said there. We've been hired to do jobs, not to be taught how to do the jobs. And I think that comes down to 3 really main reasons of how we got there. Pretty much starting off on the first one would be honesty. You know, as I said, you guys put your cups where you put your cups, very truthful behind it. And you stuck by your word and you explained why. And I think that's something that we do on a day-to-day.
I think business is complex enough without having to worry about whether somebody's telling the truth or is it a version of the truth. And I can't do my job without honesty because, like you said before, there's so many people to manage and so many things coming from up top that you don't see. And if I've got somebody coming up to me and there's just a little bit of bullshit in there, I always stop and think, I'm so glad I don't have to worry about that. I can just take it at face value. Because imagine if I had to go, all right, what you're telling me, is it version A, version B, or version C? I don't have time for that. But I will say that I've come across people where it's eventually shown itself. And that's where I feel probably the most foolish in business. I feel as though I haven't micromanaged, I've given the space, I've given the respect. And then when you find out what that was actually over here, it does start to make you question how much you can trust. And that's where I believe the seed for the gap in sales manager to salesperson can start. As soon as a break of trust comes in, then it starts to divide. I've just got this policy where it's just 100% honesty, and I try to give it, and I hope I get it back.
Because the scary thing is, if you're not talking about this stuff, you hold on to it, and that's when you get retention issues. That's when you get people that don't want to come to work and take sick days. It's almost counterproductive trying to be over the top with these things rather than just letting people be people and come back to you, because it's give and take, you know what I mean? If you're on my back constantly, why would I do you any favors in trying harder or whatever it may be? It actually kills your motivation. Whereas having that freedom and space, I know if I say, Mick, I'm having a bad day, I need to go home, I'm not going to get rinsed for it. Because if you did rinse me for it, maybe next time it would be, I'm not having a bad day, something dramatic's happened.
Yes.
There's a 7-car pile up out the front.
But not only that, what if he was having a bad day,
Yeah.
and because of that reaction, he then goes, oh, well, there's no point in telling him. And then he sits there and he
100%.
burns 3 deals that we could have had,
Yeah.
and now who's, no one's better off. And there's 2 other things that I think, and these 3 are just perfect.
Yeah.
Like if you get these 3, you're doing right. And that's communication. We don't know the honesty unless we're communicating. And what those 2 things together do is build trust.
Yeah.
Something that, nearly our whole office has. Like it feels like a second family in here.
Yeah.
And that just comes down to all 3 of those things: honesty, communication, and trust.
I will say that the effort that we've all put in to create the culture that we have here over the past 6 months or whatever, I'm now fiercely protective of.
Honesty, communication, those things. I mean, sales has got to be one of the highest turnover industries ever.
100%.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Like,
Easily.
ever. And it's because these things aren't being addressed.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's the debut of the table. There's probably a lot more debates that will be had.
We're using this.
Oh, we're going down.
We're
We're
going
going
every
hard.
episode.
Yeah,
100%.
this isn't leaving.
This is not going
This
anywhere.
isn't leaving. But all right, guys. Thanks for tuning in yet again. This has been another episode of Steel Pushers, and we'll see you for the next one.